Hello guys, welcome. This is Deepika from mytutorialrack.com and I'm bringing to you another interview question. So basically you have to figure out what is wrong with this code and how will you fix it. So this image shows you the code that I have written. So in this image, you see this particular piece of code. So you can see here, I have created a class called scalar and it extends from another class, which is my tutorial rack website. This particular class has a very simple constructor, which has a print statement. That's it. And I have created a no argument constructor here, and then I've created an argument constructor, which takes in a parameter of type integer. And here I am writing this statement and super statement together, and then I have a print line. Do you see anything wrong with it? Yes. You cannot use this and super together. First of all, anytime you call a constructor, super gets added by default. You don't have to explicitly use the word super. It automatically gets called when you call a child class constructor. Whenever you're calling a child class constructor, automatically the parent class constructor will be called. So you don't need to explicitly use the word super. Okay, now this also has to be the first line in the code, and super also has to be the first line in that block. When I say in the code, it means in this block, this should always be the first line, as well as the same rule applies to super. So using these two together is not allowed by Java. So you have to pick between the two. Either you can go for this or you can go for super. Now, since I mentioned to you, super is automatically gets called implicitly, so you don't have to worry about writing super. You can just do this. Now what happens is, that is the problem with the code. Now let's go back to our Eclipse here and figure out how to address this. So I'm going to go back to my Eclipse, and this is what I've done. So you can see here, when I hover my mouse here, it is telling me constructor call must be the first statement in a constructor. And if I move this and I move it above this, the same issue will come up for this now. So this one will says call constructor, this one here, because this is also calling what? This is calling this class constructor, and super is calling the parent class constructor. So this one, if I move here, it says constructor call must be the first statement in a constructor. So both of them cannot be used together in a block of code. So what is the purpose of the super? Super is used to call the parent class constructor, and this is used to call basically this class, the child class constructor. So now let's go ahead and comment this piece of code. So let's understand the complete program. So we have scalar, it has a no argument constructor. All it is going to do is print this statement, and similarly if there is a argument constructor, and all it is going to do is this is going to call this class constructor. But remember, super is implicitly called for every constructor. So let's go back to my tutorial rack website, and it has a constructor which is a no argument constructor, and in this all you are saying is printing a line here, and in your main class you are creating an object of the scalar and you are invoking this parameterized constructor. Okay, so what should be the output of this program? So the output should be scalar s is equals to new scalar, and you're passing the value 5. So it will come over to scalar class and it will execute this particular constructor. Now, even though you have commented out, but you know implicitly super is going to get called. So what will be the super constructor? This is going to get called, and this will be printed on the screen. Welcome to my tutorial rack. This is going to be the first statement that will be printed. Welcome to my tutorial rack, because even though you have commented out the super, there is a rule in Java that every constructor has first line is going to be super. So super class constructor is going to be called implicitly. Then the next thing you have here is when we go back, so that is the first number line. Then second is this means welcome to my tutorial rack academy. That is going to be your line number 2 that is going to get executed. This line, welcome to my tutorial rack, which is this class constructor. This is going to call this constructor. Okay, and then you have this third line, which is welcome to my tutorial rack. So this is going to be the third line that's going to get printed. Now let's see if our assumption is correct. So I'm going to go over to this and I'm going to execute this program, run as Java application, and you can see here 3 lines appeared. First is from the parent class constructor. Then this is the child class no argument constructor because you are using the keyword this. And then you have welcome to my tutorial rack academy parameterized constructor. Now if I commented this also, if I commented this, then what's going to be the answer? This is super will still be there. So line number 1 will still be there, and then line number 3 would be there. You will no longer see welcome to my tutorial rack academy. The second line will not be there. Let's go ahead and make sure our assumption is correct. Run as Java application. Ta-da! We are correct. So the line from the parent class constructor is invoked, and then the parameterized constructor println line got executed, which is this one. So what does this do? This basically calls the constructor of the current class, okay, the child class. And super is implicitly added without you need to worry about it. And what it does, it calls the parent class constructor. Now let's say parent class has another constructor which takes in an argument. So let's say we copy this and we go ahead and this one takes in a parameter of the 5. And here we will call it as welcome to my tutorial rack parameterized constructor. Now, even though you have two constructors now, okay, so you can see here. So here I've created another constructor, which is a parameterized constructor, but automatically your super is going to call only this constructor. It's not going to call both the constructors. If you explicitly want to call this constructor, then you have to use the super, and then you have to use the 5, and that's when the other constructor will be called, which is this one, the parameterized constructor will be called. So let's say we get rid of this first, and let's see is there output changes now. So if you want to keep super will automatically get called, run as, we go over to my tutorial rack main and we say run as Java application. The output remains the same. Welcome to my tutorial rack. This is the line that is coming from the parent class, which is a no argument constructor, and this is coming from the child class, the argument constructor. Okay, this one. Now if you want to call the other constructor of this parent rather than this, then you have to use explicitly the super, and then you explicitly have to pass that parameter. So that tells you that out of this is going to get called. Now no longer this will be called. If you are using your own super, then that default super is gone. Okay, so here if I go back, now what should be printed on the screen? First this will be printed, and then this line number 10 is going to get printed. Let's say if our assumption is correct, run as Java application, and you can see here welcome to my tutorial rack parameterized constructor, and then your child class parameterized constructor is called. So this is the difference between using this and super keyword, and we figured out that this and super cannot be used together in a single block of code. Okay, so you can either go for super or you can either go for this. And if you don't call super implicitly, it is being called behind the scene. Okay, so super gets added by default, so you don't have to explicitly use the word super, because super is going to automatically first call the parent class constructor and then it will call the child class constructor. I hope this explanation was good enough and you are enjoying these tutorials as much as I'm loving preparing it for you. I am going to see you in the next video with another interview question. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.